Good evening, Jai Bhim, everyone. So today we will talk a little bit more about story structures. How can some of additional framework help you in streamlining your story, creating a better structure? And in addition to that, I will share some of the subplot themes also, how you can arrange them overall in the story. Just one announcement. Next week, the session will be on storytelling for business. So that is a change. We had some queries that how can storytelling aspects be used in business. So till now we have covered enough about story plot that we can have some foundation to use those principles for our storytelling. Disclaimer is the same. Excuse me. Uh, just I'll go through the top ones, all the references, discussions, books, videos, whatever images or other stuff we are using or links. It's only for education purposes. We stay away from religion. We'll be respectful to each other. Please practice your writing trade every day. Assignments, not this week, but next week onwards, when we start going deeper into the genres. I'll be sharing the links. Participate in discussions. And if there is any copyright issue, please let us know and we'll remove the said references. I hope you are all creating something. You have some idea, some direction where you're going, what kind of genre you want to write. So I'll just recap yesterday's lecture. Three-act plot, uh, Act A or Act 1, Act 2, Act 3. Joseph Campbell's The Hero's Journey. It's a pretty detailed framework. However, it is based on the study of mythology. So may or may not be referenced, but a lot of adventure genres follow the framework. Blake Snyder, Jessica Brody, Save the Cat format, story beats and timeline. Again, excuse me, it will help you the story beats. You'll see some of the lectures talking about 15 story beats, others talking about timeline or 20 plus story beats. It depends on you, how deep you want to go, how many characters you want to keep in play, and you have to manage all that. Then we discussed Dan Harmon's 8-step story circle and how there are two zones, the known and the unknown, or order and the chaos. And at the end, these are suggestions, these are not rules. As many rules as you can break, good for you. It happens in one of the lectures, the person mentioned that Star Wars was one of the first movie that actually broke the genres. Instead of having just one story, it combined different genres, different aspects, different subplots, and it created a new trend. So hopefully, as of now, you would have noticed that most of the movies, books, novels, series that you like, they are no longer one pure genre. They combine the aspects from different storylines. And as always, your story is important, so package it better. Be your own harshest critic. Evaluate your story based on these frameworks. Can you add some stuff or can you remove some stuff from your storyline that can help your story? Today's quote to start with is: if you don't have time to read, you don't have time to write. It's simple as that. So Stephen King quote is there. He has been a prolific writer since decades now. A lot of books. And just to give you an example, one of his books, Stranger, I think there's a series also. It takes the story of Chupacabra, that is a Mexican folk tale. It's a shapeshifter that takes the shape of whichever person or object, sorry, animal it wants to. And The area of Punjab that I am from, my hometown or my native place, we have a story called there's a character or a object called Saleda. So Saleda, our elders used to tell a story in the form of uh, a bull, or it will chase you, it will make some creepy noises, or it will be hiding in trees on the road at night. So a lot of similarities in traditional stories or folk tales also. So Stephen King, he read a lot and he openly says that some of his storylines are actually borrowed from uh, other stuff he reads. So reading is important. Yes, we are discussing a lot of movies because they are easier um, to study, I'll say, because within 2.5 or 3 hours can go through a complete story. But please read, especially your favorite genre, the genre you want to write, the timeline or the subplots you want some story from that particular subject or storyline. Any questions on yesterday's day? Today is the last day for framework. Next week, instead of writing exercises, I'll be having the business storytelling for business. Any questions? Just wait for a moment here. Okay, we'll continue. So, like I used Stephen King's example earlier, now there can be two approaches to your story writing or writing style. This is only for ideas, this is not for actual writing your end-to-end chapters or parts or acts of your story. So, first option is be structured. You can think of a plot, whatever good ideas you have a diary, keep the diary, you note down the ideas, and then you can use the frameworks, create an outline, and you put different pieces together. So you write in a phased way. And when I say phased way, it doesn't mean you start with the beginning and end with the end. You might want to start with the resolution or the last part of the story. Okay, I want a particular character to solve this problem. And from there, you can start. And we'll try doing that today in one of the frameworks. But you go with each phase or each beat at a time or one beat at a time. And from there, you combine the various pieces, then you review or edit your own story. You look for the gaps or the threads that you could not close. The second option that Stephen King advises is spontaneous. Stephen King says that the plot, or if you're already starting with the plot, that's not a good thing. But maybe he can say that after writing for decades. So his idea is you start with the character and you see where it takes you. The character progresses, and once we reach the characters level week 4 or week 5, we'll have more details about that. And another statement that he commonly makes, or in his writing tips, he mentions is that the good ideas they will always stay with you. You don't have to record it, even after days, months, or years. A good idea sticks in your head, so you don't have to note it down. And he advises that if you don't write down your ideas in a diary or a workbook, your brain is automatically getting rid of bad ideas. So either way, whichever or whatever works for you, try that. No right or wrong answer here. So we start with shape of stories. Kurt Vonnegut lecture. I'm sharing the link. Please go through his lectures on shape of stories. He was an engineer who was in World War. Uh, he was actually in Dresden at the time when uh, I think American troops destroyed the German town of Dresden. So his book Slaughterhouse 5 is an amazing book, historical fiction, sci-fi, personal drama. You must read that book. It's not that big of, it's not a lengthy book, but really good book. So he, in his lecture, he says that he tried bringing scientific thinking into the literary criticism. So he, instead of giving the various phases of the story, he says the overall structure of the story can be plotted on two axes. The y-axis from top to bottom, the upper half of this line is good fortune. So if a person is at this particular point, the person is neutral, doesn't know what's going on, casual life. But good fortune means the person is happy, he or she is in a positive situation, gaining out of the situation. Ill fortune is something where the person is getting miserable, either money or getting kicked out of the family. And on starting from the left side, that is the beginning of the story, you go towards entropy or end. So entropy, he uses some of these scientific or physics terms in his discussions, but to simplify, it is the end. So from beginning to end, you can plot what kind of emotional journey your character is going through. And he breaks down these stories and explains what kind of shape you can use. However, you can connect the emotional state of the characters to the state of readers also. Your audience, your readers, once they are going through the book, they should follow and have that emotional connect with your character. So some of his lectures are talking 6, 8. So I just picked up 6 of them. Let's start. The first one, he says, the man in a hook. A person starts with a good fortune or a positive situation, ends up creating problems for himself, and then tries to get out of the hole. The key here is the end part, ending of your book. The blue dot on the screen is higher than the, so the person ends up in a situation that is better than the original situation. So a lot of our stories start with a quote, have family, uh, enough money, desirable job, but then something goes wrong, makes a bad bet, ends in a bad company, gets into some kind of situation where it looks like everything is lost, but then tries to solve it and slowly gets out of the. Your reader feels the same way. Over here, your reader is happy about the life of the person. Over here, your reader is worried what will happen to the character. Will he or she be able to get out? The second story, pretty common story in drama and dramatic literature. Boy meets girl, a person, boy or girl, any one of them, having a life, nothing special, but then meets someone, doesn't realize that someone is special by the time. So this is the high point. This is the point where both characters, they're having good time, they're emotionally connected, they feel better about themselves. But because the person doesn't value that situation, the person loses that particular relationship or that particular object. So you can use the objects as well as other characters in the mix. So the person devalues it, loses it, and becomes miserable. Now you have to see that from this point to this point, both or whatever character you are writing, in a way, the character is without the other character. So the boy is without the girl is without the boy, the person is without the object. And same is the situation. But this transition, this loss over here makes the person miserable. So emotionally, you have to ensure the person is miserable. And then tries to get out of that situation, works towards mending the relationship, achieving the relationship goals, whichever way it works out. And once again, the end situation is better than the highs in the relationship. Typical romantic drama, a person with class struggle wants to marry someone. They don't realize they are in love. By the time they realize in love, they go their own separate paths. But then the person says, no, it was more than fling. I need to have that person to be happy, chases the person, overcomes the problems, and happy ending. Third one, Cinderella has been used so much. So Cinderella story is actually very commonly used reference. Now here, the story is different. That the situation is either improving, but it's step by step. But you start from the miserable situation. So in case of Cinderella, if we take a step back, Cinderella's lost her mother, the father remarried, uh, the stepmother as well as the stepsisters, they don't treat her fairly. She's always stuck house. So there are different steps, but she's still miserable. The stairs can go down. However, the reason the stairs are up is because a fairy godmother comes, she helps her in the city. She provides her enough stuff so that she can go to or visit the ball. And that's where she meets the prince. There is a high time in her life. However, as the clock hits the midnight, everything goes. She loses everything. However, she's not that miserable. We see in the Cinderella story, it's the prince who chases Cinderella. Cinderella is not chasing the prince. So the emotional state over here, after everything is lost for Cinderella, during the story, the emotional state is better than her original state. So it's more like, okay, Cinderella had a good party and she likes that party. She was given enough respect. She enjoyed the party. Even the prince liked her, but she's happy with that. Or her state is like that. As a reader, you know she's not happy at this point or sad at this point, but she's okay. And then by some magic, the prince chases her. Then again, the happy point is far higher than the transit point in the story. The next concept is Kafkaesque. So Kafkaesque, if you're not aware of the term, is the nightmarish oppressive characteristics of a story. So it's a typical tragedy or a story where the situation of a person goes from bad to worse. The reference is the story from Kafka called Metamorphosis. Again, if you want to write drama, want to write about relationships, you want to have an emotional, psychological character, you must read Metamorphosis. So a person is having a miserable job, family members, of having no fun in his personal life. His professional life, so, but to make things worse, he starts turning into a cop. So this is the premise of Metamorphosis and how so on your chart, person is having ill fortune, but they're getting and this is just a red dot, but in his own lecture, it can go to infinity. Keeps getting so this one again is a little bit tricky. Uh, in his lecture, Ponget takes the example of Hamlet. I haven't read or studied Hamlet, but overall, the sequence says that events don't change the emotional state. So it might be a person is chasing a particular object or a relationship for happiness, but due to his or her emotional state, his or her character type, there is not much change in the emotional state. So typically, it's good to have a person who's a little bit miserable, having ill fortune, tries to get something. There is a positive news, there is a good event, but the person analyzes, is it really good? Is there a change in my fortune? Or it can also be like a person having a sad life from a reader's perspective, but the person is happy with the life. So, person is living within the means, not getting the opportunities, but at the end of the day, the person is happy with whatever is there. So, you might want to have that emotional connect with the person. You need to have events that a person chases, achieves it, but then still there is a feeling of emptiness after achieving that. So instead of having fortune, you might be having an expectation that it goes up and down, but it stays miserable. So it can be a good casual drama, feel good story, just to have that key message that you are happy the way you are. You need to appreciate whatever you should not compare. And again, riches to rags story or irony. So rags to riches can be comparable to man in the hole because you start with a position which is uh, less fortunate than the end position. However, riches to rags or irony is you start from the misfortune, you become successful, and then you end up. Now, there is a possibility you might start from here, the high end, where a person uh, is or your character has good fortune in the beginning of the story and ends up losing everything. But it's emotionally, this roller coaster is better. You start with a person with fortune and you end up having that person, condition that is worse than the start. This was the last one for the shapes of the story. I'll take a pause. Any questions on this? You see these examples even in the small beats, even in the daily episodes of some operas, and a lot of stories, short stories are around. I think Gift of Maggie by Guy Maupassant is one such example uh, where the husband sells his watch so that he can get something for his wife's hair, and the wife sells her hair because she gets money to repair husband's watch. So ironic kind of a thing. You end up both of them end up losing whatever they have, whatever they value, but they they are not that fortunate because the things they traded for, the things they want to buy are of no use anymore. Any question on shapes of story or any examples you can think of? I would like you to share. I'll wait for a minute here. Okay, no questions. With this framework, irrespective of which previous framework you are using, this drawing, this kind of emotional roller coaster, the highs and the lows of your character can help you to ensure that you keep the tempo. You're not having all the good things happening in a sequence because then first thing that's unbelievable. Second thing, your reader might lose interest. So how do you arrange different aspects? That's your job. Another structure, Dan Wells introduced this, I think around 10, 15 years ago in one of his lectures, Many Questions. Yes, Shawshank Redemption is considered one of the best movies, but it's an original novel by Stephen King. I think today we are all discussing Stephen King. I think it's Shawshank Redemption and Rita Hayworth. If you don't know, Rita Hayworth is the poster that Andy Dufresne uses in his jail cell. So it's I mean, Shawshank Redemption analysis are available on YouTube. You can go through 2 or 3 videos and you will realize it cuts across different structures. Yes. Thanks, Sanjam. Okay. So let's start our Danwell 7-step structure. So instead of having the story circle, instead of having different beats, Danwell suggests you can have simple 7 steps. The first is the book or setup. You have to explain what your characters are doing, what is the setting. And I was reviewing the movie Iqbal, and although Nasiruddin Shah's character Mohit is not introduced as a coach until I'll say after 30 minutes, but during the original 5 or 10 minutes, that character is shown as a drunkard lying on the side of the road. So it's possible you introduce a character upfront in the act one, but you utilize that character later. Okay? And I'll be going through some of the scenes of that movie later on, just to say that even when you are writing at the beat level, you cannot simply say a person goes for something and the person gets it. Even for each beat level, you have to make things difficult. Plot turn one, we talked about it as a catalyst. What is the incident that pushes our hero or main character or protagonist to take up a step? Some of the trainers they call it as inciting incident. What is it that goes so wrong that the hero has to enter the fray and take those steps? Okay. But plot turn, we normally know just after hook when we are completing our setup, when we complete why or uh, but why is no one questioning that? Why is no one uh, trying to change the status quo? But there is an incident, it happens, and we have the first turn. Second is character under pressure. That's when your character understands how bad the situation is, how much effort he or she needs to put in to achieve something. Midpoint is point of reversal. Uh, I'll come to this one again. Pinch Three's major defeat. In our previous frameworks, it was the Dark Knight, where everything is lost. But then plot three is you go to your friends for help, you plan it out. But within that also you can have one incident where the hero is close to losing and resolution is the end state. You need to make sure that all the open threads are closed here. Now, in his lecture, Dan Wells actually suggests that you start with the resolution in some of his sheets. So let's take example of Iqbal. I want, if I want to write a story similar to Iqbal, the storyline is I want a regular person from rural India without a lot of coaching, but person is passionate about the sport to play for Indian national team. And that theme, that dream is repeated throughout the. So that's my resolution. That's what I want to achieve. Now, how do I make that difficult for the guy? What are the challenges? And from resolution, to the setup, I need to make it opposite. So now, if you remember, a lot of players in 80s or 90s used to be from big cities, Delhi or Mumbai, and that trend changed slowly. Okay, so now I need a rural setup. I need a person with very limited means. In the story, he's poor. Iqbal is poor. His father is working in his own field, and they are losing money in the field. That point again will come here later on. There the comeback win. So whatever resolution you want, you start with the resolution. A person plays for India team, cricket or whatever sport you want, and you go back to the completely opposite situation as the starting. Plot one, or sorry, the second, the first step was our resolution. Second step is opposite. The third step is the mid. So the midpoint is where the person has completely lost the plot and he or she is not getting his dream fulfilled. So midpoint, as we talked yesterday, it's kind of a reversal. So point of reversal. Over here, there is self-doubt. We understand how big the challenge is. Now, how you break it up is now you need to go from point 1 to point 4 first, and then point 4 to point 7. Over here, the small part is there's a kid who in a rural India who doesn't have enough coaching, passionate, physically fit. He wants to play, but he cannot play. So why can't he play? Now we have the catalyst or inciting incident that he's good. He ends up playing in Girish Karnad's academy, and he is doing pretty well there. However, the other events happen and is under so much pressure because he's angry. He hits the main star batsman on his head. He cannot play. However, another reversal in the movie I noticed is once Iqbal is selected for the Andhra Ranji Trophy, his father finds out somewhere over here in the story. His father finds out and he says, "You cannot play at all. You have to start with me because working in the fields because we are so close to losing our farm." Now, over there, the reversal is that in the beginning of the movie, when Iqbal finds out that Mohit, Nasiruddin Shah's character, is actually a coach, you see him, Iqbal, and his sister chasing Mohit to coach him. But at this point, another reversal is that Nasiruddin Shah's character Mohit says that I am not okay with this situation. So I am going to make sure that Iqbal plays. And that is where he actually tells him that it's going, he sets up uh, a cricketing net in his backyard. Iqbal keeps going for his field work as well as practices with Nasiruddin Shah's Mohit character in the evenings and the floodlights. So that is again another point of the person. Your main character who was passionate about cricket and who will be playing for the Indian cricket team actually has given up here. But Nasiruddin Shah's character Mohit says, no, that's not right. I will ensure that he plays. I will push him in that direction. I'll just take a pause. Any question till now? Because midpoint is really important. You have to show the reversal. And okay, I'll just take a pause. Any question? In Shawshank Redemption, I think that point comes when Andy Difference tells the jailer that one of the existing or convict knows a person who killed his wife. So can you reopen my case? And the jailer actually manages to kill that particular person who gives him reversal with a different example. Okay. Any other question? So the second movie I wanted to discuss, and I have those references later. It's Asuran. Asuran is a movie by Vetri Maran. Uh, Again, a really good movie on social structure, caste structure, pretty much cuts across the state. Now, let me clear it. Good. So another part is we sometimes introduce the backstories. So throughout the first half of the movie in Asuran, or I don't know if you guys remember a movie called Hum by Amitabh Bachchan. The family members, or at least the sons of Sivasami is Dhanush's character, the father. His sons actually consider him a coward. They say you don't pick up any fights. There is a situation in the movie where the landlord tells Sivasami that because your son did something stupid or challenged uh, my authority, you have to bow down on the ground and ask for forgiveness from all the houses, all the homes in the village. And Dhanush actually does that. So that is again the level of, you can say, a pacifist or cowardice that is considered, and his sons cannot take that, both of them. That is the trigger where his son actually goes and uh, fights with the landlord, and then he gets killed, the elder son. The character reversal happens when his younger son is attacked, and Dhanush takes up the weapons and not kills a bunch of them, simply tells them that I don't have any. You will leave my son out of it. If you attack any of us again, I'll kill you all. So for here, you have a person who's pacifist who has apologized, asked for forgiveness from the whole village, picks up the weapon, and defeats around 10 or 12 hunters who live in the forest, as repeatedly mentioned in the story. Then there is a backstory, then there is an additional act. But till this point, there is no violence from Dhanush's character. Ankita, I hope that explains. In romantic movies, this will be where the hero or the heroine understands that, okay, we were meant to be together, but there is a breakup. We are not supposed to be together. There is such a big conflict that the end state, the final state of marriage or having that relationship is not possible. Because when you start from here, you are hinting the readers that yes, it is possible. Yes, they are doing something. So when we start from this movie, especially in Asuran, the purpose is to get to the lawyer. And that happens. Again, I'll take a pause. You need another example? Let me know. I had kept these examples at the last. I can use them now. So reversal is not only your main character. Reversal can be in the team. In Kung Fu Panda, the reversal is when the master of Oh, the panda, Shifu. Shifu realizes I cannot coach him as I coached my other students. I have to use food. And then both of them train with momos or dim sums, with cookies, and he coaches him. The approach is completely different. So your main character is changing. However, the approach of the team is also. In case of the Black Swan, the conflict in the character is that uh, Nina, the character, main character, she's so good, she is so dedicated, she's so timid, she always plays by the rule that she is the picture perfect example of White Swan. However, the opera director, Vincent Castle Thomas, he wants her to play the Black Swan also. So he wants Nina to be aggressive, to break the rules, to showcase that particular bad girl, Black Swan attitude in her performance. And that's what she's struggling with. Because for the audience, it looks like she's forcing that particular role. And when the opera director compares her with Mila Kunis's Lily's character, he says, see, she's natural. She's not faking it. So even the sentences used in the feedback are such. Okay. So, yeah. So this is a good framework. Start from this. There are a lot of examples given by Dan Wells across the uh, police, across the board. He actually uses some of the romance, some of the horror genre examples. You can find those videos. If you see a lot of these incidents we have already seen, we have already discussed in different frameworks, but the approach for seven-step structure, the advised approach, what I will suggest is start with resolution, set up the hook, write the midpoint, and then go from hook to midpoint and midpoint to resolution. I hope this one is clear. This is again not a shortcut method. There are no shortcuts, but just to verify your story, if you feel like you need additional pages moving from beginning to the end, you can use these. Again, any questions? Now, Christopher Brooke wrote a book in 2004 about seven basic plots. In his book, he said that similar to Joseph Campbell's statement, Joseph Campbell said all the adventure story, all the mythologies, they follow a certain structure. Christopher Booker said that again, your stories, the basic plots are these. Now, you may want to use ideas from different plots as subplots and combine. So the first one is overcoming the monster, which is a typical fight against an evil force, David versus Goliath. You guys are not, or your character is not equipped to take up such a big enemy, but you end up having that confrontation. Rags to riches, turnaround of fortune, person invents something, a person trades something, creates something, puts in the effort, makes some deals, rags to riches. The quest is one aspect of the quest is, or similar to adventure genre, is you have to form a team that goes to a place or gets an object. So you have a target. You need people with different skills. So it can be hype movie also, because at the end of the day, you need to make sure that you are going to uh, steal something. A lot of Mission Impossible movies can be considered quest, or your James Bond, that you need to go to a place, you need to win over something, and you need to either take away the object from the uh, antagonist. Voyage and return. So in this one, the person or your main character is forced to leave the comfort or whatever situation he or she is born in. But when he or she leaves, he ends up in a situation where a lot of struggle, but the person learns from that and comes back, sets the things right, and the person comes back with a different character. Uh, can be so again, the threat or the challenges the person faces changes the person. So you can have a lot of again adventure genre in journey. Sorry, I'm forgetting the name of the book. So Gulliver's Travel is one. The Hobbit is one. Lion King. The reason for leaving in all these three stories is different. In Lion King, Simba is told that he is responsible for his father's death, so he must go away. Okay, Gulliver's Travel, the person goes, suddenly he's too big, suddenly he's too small, looks at the different perspective, and comes back as a better person. Comedy, again, light drama, cheerful. However, recently we have seen some dark comedies also. The best, I mean, not recently, the best example is Jane Bhi Do Yaro. You have some amazing comic beats in that beat, but at the end, it's a tragedy. It's dark ending. They are being hanged, both the friends. Tragedy. See, the difference between a dark comedy and tragedy is that in tragedy, you have to showcase that your character has a flaw that leads to the tragic ending. It's not the environment. Yes, environment plays a role, but the person, your main character, meets the tragic ending, has certain characteristics that end up harming himself or herself. And rebirth, I think one of the best stories, long one is, and it cuts across genre, the Count of Monte Cristo, Alexander Dumas. Uh, you will see a lot of writers, authors, trainers going gaga over the book. Even Shawshank Redemption, Andy Dufresne has a quote that I was straight arrow when I was out, but when I came to prison, I became crooked. So in a way, even the scene when he gets out of the gutter and is being washed by the rain, that is considered a rebirth scene. So rebirth is when your event or the circumstances change your main character in such a way that either it reverses the kind of character he or she is playing, and but at the end of the day, it's a positive end. I'll again wait. Any questions on these? Okay. The second aspect of this book is rule of three, the seven basic plots. So it says you can have three levels of progress. So let's say if you're stuck, see, you have to showcase the person is repeatedly, or your main character is repeatedly trying to do better, trying to improve. So, or even if it's a tragedy, even if it is a dark comedy, how that person is descending the character. So just to give an example, an injury of a player can be first level injury is a regular injury in a box. I think the injuries are like that. I think even in Crete, it's progressive. You are against a certain opponent where you are taking a lot of risk. But the second level of opponent is a professional player, uh, professional boxer. However, you might have a little bit of nagging injury, or you might have a little bit of challenge that you have to overcome. And the third or the final showdown is typically where you put everything on line. Might be going ahead with the injury, might be fighting, it might be a career ending or a life ending. So three aspects, three levels of progress or descent. Same way, three solutions, but one is correct. However, at that time, you might want to give a very easy solution which has a different impact at the end of the story. It actually makes the overall journey difficult. So then three tries to achieve success, which is again, if you look at the overall story structure, we have the first situation where our main character gets a small win. The second event is where the character loses everything, and it's the third final showdown where the final success is achieved, and that is across different frameworks. Or you can have three contrasting approaches. Now, the contrasting approach means that to achieve a certain goal, uh, you have to showcase how that goal can be achieved and why your character chooses a certain option but not the other, and how it impacts at a later stage. Again, any question? And contrasting can be in a heist, you have different skill sets that are contrasting from. You might have a computer genius who actually is pretty bad in sports or physical work. Same way, one character can be complete, full muscle, but doesn't use the brain. A person who's good in driving or good in hacking, they're different characters. So all of them will provide a different approach to the problem. But at the end, you have to, or you showcase why one approach fails and the other one in which you, after the failure, how you adjust and how you combine forces. I'll pause. Any question till here? I'll just give you guys a minute to write any questions. I just need to fill up my water bottle. Give me 1 minute.
Hello, sir. Hello.
Which second point, Ankita? So no other question. Okay, guys. The three solutions, but one is correct. Okay. See, it is more to do with how can you achieve something. So if you look at the movie Iqbal, the first solution is he gets into an academy and he can go and play run. The second solution is he practices with Mohit or Nasiruddin Shah's character and he ends up in the trials for the state. He is not given a chance along with other athletes. But Nasiruddin Shah character uses or pleads some of the selectors to give Iqbal a chance at the lunch time. So the second approach is he gets the chance, but he still misses it. Okay, and the third approach is because he wants to play Ranji, irrespective of the state. So the person says he can play for Andhra State. They have a vacancy, and I can help. That. So there are three approaches or three solutions, but this is where he ends up having that or achieving that final goal. So the first one is a typical approach. You go to a coaching center, the coaches take you to competitions, you undergo all the trials, and then you're or in Mission Impossible movies, you will see that as the starting of the movie, they are chasing a particular object, like I mentioned yesterday, a nuclear object or something like that, which is very dangerous. They miss it in the first part, and then they say, okay, another solution is we go to this part, and then they end up having that solution, but they realize, okay, uh, we are not closer to our goal. We might have learned something, we might have achieved something, but this is not good. Then they reset, they retrain, collect their expertise, and then go for another option. So it's basically you think on your feet. You understand that okay, this approach either during the approach or while that approach or solution ends, you are not getting it. You are not getting closer to your because that is where the contrast should come. I hope that explained. We addressed the question. So we'll just go over some of the assignments that were submitted. And if we have time, I will uh, cover some of the story aspects, although we have covered some. But within the beats, how can you use three or five steps to create better engagement? Okay. So, Mice and the Cat was submitted by, I think all four of these were submitted by Ankita Sanjam's characters. We discussed one yesterday, Akbar Birbal, like historic fiction, witty situation. The second one he mentioned one of the cartoons um, and the relationship between brother and sister, how they try to play around, solve something, little bit of trickery. Uh, so I'll say a casual comedy. But the third part, Charles Bukowski, I have not read him. However, the author's name that was shared, the point was that the author actually questions the so-called American dream, which is pretty common in a lot of books, a lot of movies. And for that matter, I personally had read John Steinbeck's Grapes of Wrath and Of Mice and Men. So they are also borderline tragic stories. But within Indian cinema, Adobe Ka Jameen by Balraj Sahni was similar. That a person leaves his or her own situation and goes into the uh, I'll say difficult situation because of financial troubles and ends up being more miserable. And then mice and cat, one solution was magic map, location is known all the time. The reason this is not a good solution is you have to avoid something called toy ex machina. See if I can type it. So it's actually wherever your protect. So this is a situation where your person or your protagonist is stuck in a very difficult situation, but out of the blue, due to some godly power or some happenstance, the person gets out of that. The best example of this thing is Tintin or French Tonton. So in most of the Tintin comics, you'll see he investigates, he gets into a situation, and by sheer luck or by sheer chance, he gets out of that difficult situation. Okay, so that's one reason this story might not be appealing for this book. Joker, she's Anita mentioned it's a social conflict, mental health issues, a combination of yes, but if you go back to the original Joker in actual Batman comics, so if I'm not wrong, I don't remember the exact name of that particular comic strip, the title. However, Joker is actually having a job, but I think his wife is expecting at that time, or they already have a young kid, and due to a lot of pressure, he breaks down. So it's a psychological breakdown. The Joker, as such, is whenever you're writing Joker, you have to ensure that you take care of the psychology. You cannot write Joker without. Like Harvey Dent. Harvey Dent wants to protect the system or the decisions taken by Commissioner Gordon and Batman end up uh, harming Harvey Dent's girlfriend, Rachel. So it's a complete opposite. So now he hates the system. There is not much psychological power, and he's evil. So he'll toss the coin. He'll say, okay, as two face, he will say either you get a chance or you don't. So psychological aspect is less, but in case of Joker, the psychological effect is high. And again, if I was listing actually Jack Nicholson played Joker in one of the movies, then we have Heath Ledger, which is sort of famous Joker. Then you have in last couple of movies we have different characters playing Joker, and then in Phoenix playing Joker as Joker. So if you study all those characters, yes, I understand you. But I'm just saying that one character, how you compare it with it. I think the second part of Joker is also in the same casting. Okay, Truman Show. Truman Show, absolutely good one. Uh, it's more like so. It's there's a concept called allegory in the cave. That is where it's also similar to metric. So most of your characters they are just playing the role. They don't know what's happening. However, in case of Truman Show, your protagonist doesn't know that everything is fake until he meets the girl who is who wants to travel, who tells him this is the real life meaning, but by the time she actually falls in love with him. The moment they try to get her out, there's a conflict. Okay, and that's when so he if you see in Truman Show, Truman had been noticing that things are happening in the similar sequence every day. Okay, because when as a viewer, when you see that, even he is noticing that, but he doesn't put them all together until he realizes that the girl is, and then fear of water. I mean, he has been trained, conditioned since birth not to go close to because they want him to keep inside that setup. Okay? So that's something which is not planned or in a way your main character breaks the rule. That is a character change. Which is okay, I will go through political thriller and drama, activists against the system, get help from legal professionals. Uh, I can find other movies for such example. I think Arjun is a good movie. Uh, when Ram Gopal Verma used to make good movies, he used to refer Arjun repeatedly. Sunny Deol movie with Anupam Kher, some other good characters. So it's not student activity as such, but overall youth taking up that. But Rang De Basanti, I felt it was too cheesy. And actually, we see all the Rang De Basanti characters what they're doing now. So I don't have. Okay. Any feedback? Anything you guys would like me to repeat in today's session? Okay. So now let's do the beat analysis. So when I say beat analysis means when we are picking up a single beat, uh, one of those 15 parts of your story. How do you write that? How do you ensure your audience understand why that beat is happening and how your story is moving forward? So in case of Asuran, you see these different characters. I mean, the first 5 minutes of the movie, whatever ideas you have, Kajal, of different beats. So let's say I want to create a character. Uh, so, for example, golf. I think the greatest game ever played is a movie in which a very poor kid ends up playing golf. Golf is traditionally a very sport for rich old men, but Tiger Woods changed. See, if, I wanted to discuss another aspect, not during the sports movie, but now that you have got it. Let's say cricket. So if you look at the history of cricket, can anyone tell me why cricket was called, or I don't know if still is called, gentleman's game? Why was cricket called gentleman's game? So I'll let you think about it. Why? So whatever ideas you get, okay? Yes. So Asuran, I'll come back. So Asuran, the first 5 minutes of the movie are actually Anush and his younger son walking through the water, and he's teaching his son that the easy way is on the dry land, but they'll be able to track us. And even when they get out of the water, he tells him to walk reverse so that your feet or the footprints are that somebody entered the water, not exited. Same way, in another one, the wife and young daughter, along with her brother, they are also passing through, and then the police is going to a village where the rich landlord has been killed, and everybody is okay. So it sets it up that okay, what happened? How are these things connected? Okay. So to Sanjam's answer, yes, it used to be rich men's game, and to go deeper into that, the gentleman's game was the definition of gentleman at the time was considered a person who doesn't have to work for work. So that is one of the reasons the cricket matches they actually start pretty late in the day. And there was one study done that for uh, the family background of UK soccer players, how they actually come from the families, or they call soccer is the game for street kids. So because it's physical, you have to put the effort. But for cricket, you need to have that expertise. You need some level of money. So for cricket, it was like people who don't need to go out for work. Those are the people who play the game. So gentlemen and professionals were or amateur professionals were the people who used to play for money even at that time. That's how the clubs and all start. Okay, midpoint I already discussed Asuran, a person, the father's character played by Anush. Instead of being a pacifist, he picks up the weapons, he fights, and then he explains his stance why he is against violence. So there is a complete 180-degree shift. Black Swan, the starting of the hook is that uh, Natalie Portman's character is very dedicated. Repeatedly, people call her timid, dedicated to the profession or to the art, uh, plays by the rule. And there are different aspects. I mean, how she only eats what her mother is giving her. Even when she is selected as the main swan queen, she does not eat cake. So she wants to excel. But the character needs her to play both black and white swan, and that is the challenge. And the performance should not look like she's faking it or she's acting. The performance should be natural. But her natural state is white swan. She is repeatedly falling. And she's unable to. Now, another beat analysis is in the just before interval when Iqbal's father Anwar and Nasiruddin Shah's character Mohit they meet. So Nasiruddin Shah's character Mohit uh, goes to meet Anwar after Anwar and Iqbal are coming out of. Now, to create that conflict, when Mohit or Nasiruddin Shah introduces himself, the first reaction from Iqbal's father is, "You are the famous drunkard or champion cricketer." And then he says that you are dirty and I'm just coming out of the house of prayer. So don't make me dirty or filthy. And then Mohit says that I'm not that bad that I'll meet you after your prayers, after being drunk and all that. So now it's a small situation. Nasiruddin Shah's character has gone there to meet Iqbal's father to get his support for the game. But they start on a bad. And throughout the movie, he they are making some references to God. I mean, Nasiruddin Shah before his trial, Iqbal's trial, tells Iqbal's mother that you can do your prayers because my prayers are never answered, or some small references like. But then once the character role reverses, Iqbal's mother says maybe God doesn't want this. But then the Nasiruddin Shah says that it's not, I don't care anymore. Now I will do what I want. Hindi says, "Ye mere ko mani." So, I don't accept. So this is one beat in your story. However, even within that beat, you start with the conflict. You set it up for the conflict. Then Anwar and Mohit, when they have a discussion, Anwar says, on this elected will get rich. I want a safe future for my kid. He can start working in the field. But we come to know about that later when Iqbal's mother and Akbar have discussion that their land or farm is going to be possessed by the bank. And at that time, the next situation or the next beat is that Iqbal has repeatedly requested his mother to come and see him play. And then there's the final day of the match. He wants mother to visit him. And the scene starts that she's packed her bag and she kisses her daughter goodbye. And Anwar is sitting outside in the porch or veranda and he says, "Don't go today because the bank has already taken away. Today is a bad day." And so emotionally, you are creating a situation which is completely contradicting. It's the high time for Iqbal. However, for his father, for his family, it is the low point in life. But that's when Iqbal's mother calls his father out that Iqbal is not responsible for your bad business decisions. He's not responsible for the crop failure. Why are you not allowing what he wants to do? Give him a chance. Okay, so that particular conflict is resolved there at the emotional high of Iqbal and emotional. So within the beat analysis, how you play out the different parts. Again, I'll pause. You guys understand this? Just because we have 15 beats doesn't mean the first beat is where the person is emotionally low and the 15th beat is where the person will be emotionally high. In the movie Iqbal, there are different aspects like any questions? Okay. So we do have time. We will check the conflict situations next time in detail, but I think this was part of our old slides also. You can refer to these, whichever way you want to play. I'll not go into this detail. We have only 10 minutes left. So today's summary, Kurt Vonnegut's Shape of Stories, Dan Wells' seven-step story structure, Christopher Booker's seven basic plots, and conflict situation we'll do again later. Any questions, anything you would like me to explain again? Let me know. We have 10 or 8 minutes to go. So the assignment for the week, hopefully these frameworks should have given you some ideas on how to create different structures, how to borrow from different plots. Well, I'll go back to that in a minute. So you should have at least, if you want to write a story, you should have some outline of your story. You should have some idea of what flow will be, what emotional state will be. Uh, I'm explaining this. So uh, you should be able to have your story outline. You should be able to evaluate your ideas using one or more than one of these frameworks. Okay, and this is about the story that you want to write. It's not about what you have read or what you have seen, any movies or seen. I'm talking about the first step is whatever you want to do, whatever you want to write. I hope these different frameworks are helpful in evaluating. The second part, the actual work assignment, is to analyze one of your favorite stories using two or more frameworks. The reason for that is although the flow is similar, you'll see the events are similar, but different frameworks might give you ideas that will improve your story. As always, Mail your ideas, assignments to this email ID stories.n.doodles@gmail.com or WhatsApp to this number. Uh, I could not make a slide for that one. Let's see over here. So there are chances that you want to use different plots or combine different genres. So you must not keep it at a linear level. That okay, first is heist. You go and you find something. Once you have found it, the inciting incident happens. Next one is actual fight with that object. Maybe you got a sword, you got a bow and arrow or some weapon. Then you fight and you win or you lose. The next thing is you understand this. You have to divide the various genres in different aspects. So let's say first part is from creating different characters. The inciting incident might be linked to another aspect after major defeat. So one such example is in a lot of adventure stories or movies, you will see that there is a fight in the beginning of the movie, and your protagonist defeats the temporary enemy. However, by the time you pass from this phase, that particular temporary enemy is actually a friend of protagonist and helps the protagonist to fight this particular final phase of the uh, story. So your old enemies might end up being your new friends for the final showdown. So confrontation with that enemy might be completely different subplot. And confrontation, or when you combine your forces, you might be having a different set of challenges. So use the piecemeal approach, use the small pieces from one aspect. Don't go linear with the with each subplot. I'll explain that next time. I'll try to plot some stories. And any other questions? Kajal, I hope the assignment is clear now. So next week we'll be having storytelling. One day will be storytelling for business. How we can use stories for our projects, submissions, as well as in the business meeting or presentation. And then we'll pick up our old writing exercises. The presentation will be available to you through digital Nalanda. So any other questions for me? If not, can wrap it up. If you have any other questions, see, you don't have to reach out to me only for the assignments. If you have any other questions, you can always drop. You can address those. The email and the WhatsApp are not just for the question assignment. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for your time, everyone, and have a nice evening.